follows an extract from my book Letters from the Broom Cupboard, available from Amazon. Dear reader, although the piano has 88 notes and the flute has 37 notes, unless you buy a supremely expensive extension joint and have an out-of-this-world technique to afford you a few extra semitones, all a musician really needs is 8 notes. Just a basic octave covers the major scale, which forms the basis for our Western tonal system. As a teenager, it seemed good to me to explore the world of campanology, and so, each Tuesday evening, I climbed the precariously winding steps up the local church tower and held on tightly to bell number 4. Ranging from lightest to heaviest, numbers 4 and 5 were allocated beginner bells. Bells numbers 1 to 3 were much too light and frisky, and numbers 6 to 8 were deemed too heavy for a slip of a girl like me. I don't think I'd have that worry now, alas. Yet again, I find in myself a penchant for music making in broom cupboard-esque establishments. The church was only a small village affair, and the tower could be described as cosy by an exuberantly optimistic estate agent. Standing shoulder to shoulder in a cramped circle, music is made, potentially, by the pulling of ropes in a succession of varied combinations. It sounds simple, but it is in fact quite terrifying. If you pull too hard, or before the rope is properly uncoiled, you stand to break the stay on which the bell itself is hung. There's a rhythm to the process quite apart from the musical aspect. The leader of our group was an elderly gent named Stanley, and I'm ashamed to say that he had cause to climb the rickety ladder into the bell loft with a hammer and nails more than once on my account. It's always a bonus to keep a tight hold on the rope too. This was an objective that I didn't always grasp, rather like the rope, thus sending Stanley up the ladder yet again. Bell ringing is really mathematical. If you progress into the higher echelons, you must memorise long mathematical progressions to translate into melodies such as Plain Hunt. This is termed change ringing, as it describes the bells changing places. Plain Hunt doubles uses 6 bells. The 6th bell is the tenor bell and ends each phrase or sequence. Plain Hunt doubles follows this sequence: 1 2 3 4 5 6, 2 1 4 3 5 6, 2 4 1 3 5 6, 4 2 5 1 3 6, 4 5 2 3 1 6, 5 4 3 2 1 6, 3 5 1 4 2 6, 3 1 5 2 4 6, 1 3 2 5 4 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6. It is more easily remembered, so I'm led to believe, by drawing a visual line to trace your individual bell. I'm afraid that this was beyond my mental mathematical skills at the time, and I restricted myself to call changes. Here the conductor dictates the pattern and calls the order. Numbers are shouted in pairs so that each ringer is directed regarding which bell to follow. For example, 3 to 7 would mean that ringer number 3 would pull their downward stroke directly after the ringer of bell number 7 has pulled down. Call change ringing should be plain sailing, but in our group there was an awkward problem that threw a spanner in the works. As Stanley was directing the pattern, he'd begin to say 1 to 4 or 5, 8 to 6 or 7. However, he'd get past the first 2 words and then the trouble would start. You see, Stanley had a particularly bad stammer which left us on pins. 1 to f, he'd begin, and it would take some time before it was clear whether bell number 4 or 5 was up next. Similarly, he would call 8 to s, and all would be chaos. By the time we'd gathered if number 6 or 7 was to follow, it was too late and everybody had lost the momentum of their bell. The end result was an oral rendition of the whole bell tower collapsing in on itself. All the notes had stacked up in the waiting queue and then rushed on in together when the rope simply had to come down. You have to maintain the momentum of the rope. If you pause for too long, the music comes to a standstill. But more seriously, you risk jolting the bell off its stay. Sometimes one of the more experienced ringers would take an educated guess about what was to come next and give a nod to the waiting ringers in an attempt to keep musical flow. But it was a serious thing to usurp Stanley's authority, and nobody dared try this too often. Poor Stanley. It simply wasn't the job for him, despite his experience and ability. As far as I could gather, it was the same old story. Stanley had been there for years and had taken his position by some form of osmosis, and that was how it stayed. Nobody had the heart to broach the topic, and if Stanley was aware of the chaos he caused, he didn't seem too concerned. At least this wasn't an issue when we were change ringing, and here harmony reigned, unless I'd forgotten the sequence again. I love the cultural overtones of the practice of campanology. It's so jolly British. What could be better on a sultry summer evening, should we ever get one, than sitting in the garden sipping Prosecco and listening to bell practice? This, of course, presumes that Stanley isn't calling the changes. It annoys me that policy has become so ridiculous that a special licence has to be pre-arranged, otherwise you could get slapped with a noise abatement order. Although, on reflection, if Stanley was directing, perhaps it makes sense. I can't think why my friend and I first got the idea to go bell ringing into our heads. I have a sneaking suspicion that a couple of young male members may have been the initial motivation. I'm quite positive that our joining the group had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that they left soon after our arrival. Nevertheless, we stayed on, and so our ultimate objective must have been intrinsically pure in heart. Gratefully yours. For the full collection of Letters from the Broom Cupboard, available from Amazon in paperback or as an ebook, follow the links in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.